welcome. Welcome to a tale that may be nothing more than modern misunderstanding or misrepresentation, or flights of fancy. Or it may indeed be something that relates to the dim Celtic past of Ireland, but that I shall leave to you to decide. I will merely present the fact. Ah, is it a bird? Is it a plane? Is it Superman? Well, no. No, unlike that famous old American television series, it is actually just a bird with feathers, a crow, in fact. Though if it is just a normal, everyday, common or garden bird like you might see flying around in your own garden, or if it is actually something from the dark mists of Celtic Ireland, is rather debatable in this case. But that is entirely for you to decide. That is not really up to me to say. I shall merely present the facts as I know them. Now, there are many fascinating figures from the folk tales of Ireland, and one of those is the Morrigan. Now, I'll be doing a full-length video about her later on, and this one is just a little snippet, you might say, which may or may not actually have any connection with the Morrigan herself at all, depending on your point of view. You see, if you believe wholeheartedly in the old legends and folk tales, or even if you think there may just be a little grain of truth in them, then you will probably consider this to be the absolute proof of your convictions. No doubt about it. There you are, you see. There you are, proof positive. If, however, if, however, you think the old tales are nothing more than too many pints of some alcoholic beverage, or the ravings of those who should be confined in a padded room for their own safety, then you will see it, well, then you will see it simply as a pile of what you should avoid stepping in while walking through a cowshed. That I leave entirely up to you. Now, the Morrigan, almost always referred to as the Morrigan, known as the Phantom Queen or the Great Queen, was seen chiefly as a goddess of war and destruction, of chaos, a goddess of fire and the foretelling of doom, but also as a guardian of Ireland, very, very possessive of the land and those who would occupy it. And given her warlike status, she was one who liked to hang around on battlefields just for the fun of it, you could say. I mean, sure, there's nothing like the entertainment of watching disembodied, severed heads rolling around on the ground, or yards of guts hanging out, or hours of fun you could have with that. And she might take the form of a raven or a crow while enjoying the spectacle. You see, those birds being closely associated with her, seen as her messengers, or even as she herself on occasions, because she was a shapeshifter. Of course, ravens and crows are scavenger birds, and the reason they might be drawn to battlefields with bodies and bits of bodies lying around all over the place is, I suppose, rather easy to understand. It was what you might call a free lunch. But given the Morrigan's fondness for battles and those ever-present birds, they became forever associated with her. In Ireland long ago, and, well, not so long ago in some places, I suppose, if a crow or a raven were to sit there watching you, or to circle around your head, all people would say, "Ah, 'tis the Morrigan. She has her eye upon you, all that she does." Oh, yes, which is the main point of the story. Birds, or rather one bird in particular, a crow. Just an ordinary crow as one might see in any field across the land of Ireland. Or was it? Ah. There's an ancient Neolithic passage grave, some 5,000 years old, near a place called the Knoll in the County Meath, and it was discovered quite by accident in 1949 when a woman who happened to be visiting the Great Burial Mound at Newgrange, which is not too far away, remarked that, oh, there was a mound just the like of that one on the farm that belonged to her uncle. Ah, now no one even realized that. Well, the archaeologists, they went along, and the mound was excavated, and a great many objects were discovered in it, including the remains of over 60 burials. Sure, they must have been dropping like flies around the place back then. Anyway, the site is open to the public, but you have to get the key from a man who lives nearby. It's a very interesting site. It's well worth a visit, containing many decorated stones in the vaulted chamber, and the acoustics inside unbelievable. You know, I heard a girl playing a cello in it. She used to go there to practice, it seems, because of the amazing sound the cello made inside the chamber, echoing back from the stones. Oh, the sound of it. It was amazing, a sound like which you might associate with a great cathedral. That one cello sounding like a whole string orchestra. But that's not really what we're talking about, I suppose, is it? Now, I visited it several years ago, just after the cellist had left, in fact. We had to wait for her to leave. And I was with a shamanic group. And there are rituals that date back to ancient Celtic Ireland that the leader of the group performed outside the burial mound before we all went in. Now, these rituals, you see, they involve facing the four compass points, and while facing each point in turn, calling upon various representations of the Celtic shamanic spirituality. Mother Earth, Father Sky, the Great Stag, the Salmon of Knowledge, the Great Creator, and so on, accompanied by a drum beat on the traditional Irish goatskin drum, the bowron, itself a part of ancient Ireland, derived from a flat, wide vessel used to carry peat and a winnowing basket that, when turned over, became the battle drum of the Irish clans. And it plays a part in shamanic rituals, just as the one that he was performing. Now, it is important to the story, or it is very important to the story, so pay attention to this bit. It is important to bear in mind that there was not a bird of any description to be seen anywhere, not so much as a sparrow. And being up on a hill as we were, we could see in all directions. The sky was perfectly clear. Not a thing with feathers on it was to be seen anywhere. As he was performing the ancient ritual and he had the drum, a crow, a crow suddenly appeared, and I say it appeared because one moment the sky was empty, and the next there it was, just like that. And then it flew down, and it literally hovered over his head. Oh yes, hovered. Now, while the act of hovering may be associated with hummingbirds, it's rather beyond the ability of crows. But this one clearly did not know that, and it hovered. It hovered there for a moment. Then, after that bit of very uncrow-like hovering, it said, "Ah," as crows do, of course, and it rose up into the air, up and up and up it went, and then it vanished. It was gone, just as it had appeared, like that. It did not fly away, no. It simply was no longer there. Now I said to the group leader, "Did you see that? Did you see that crow?" And he said, "Yes, he did, but he could hardly not have seen it, of course, since it was nearly sitting on his head." And I said to him, I said, "Now, perhaps the Morrigan has noticed your invocations, and she liked them, and she sort of dropped by, as it were, just to say hello," and he agreed with me, as I suppose he would, of course. Now, as I said, if you believe in such things, you will see a visitation by the Morrigan as a reasonable explanation for the curious event. If you don't, well, then you'll probably say that the bird just snuck up on us and nobody happened to notice it. The hovering part, of course, is a bit harder, but I suppose, not being an ornithologist, I can't really give a defining opinion on that. It does seem rather unnatural, however. So that is my own personal little tale, possibly concerning the Morrigan, or at least a crow who obviously had not read the How to Fly instruction manual for crows, and also seemingly possessed the rather unusual ability to vanish into thin air. That is rather hard to do, With that, I shall leave you to ponder upon the tale, and I shall wish you good night.